Key matchups are set for November after high-stakes primaries in 6 states. In the closely watched Democratic primary for Wisconsin governor, David Crowley narrowly beat Democratic Socialist Francesca Hung. Now he's calling for Democrats to unite ahead of the general election.
And every one of us has something much bigger to unite around. And that is keeping MAGA extremism from bringing the chaos we see in Washington into our neighborhoods right here in the state of Wisconsin. From the very first day that I announced this campaign, I said the real threat wasn't any of my primary opponents. The real opponent has always been Tom Tiffany.
ABC News political director Averi Harper is here for more. Hi, Averi. This was an upset for the progressives and a win for the more moderate wing of the Democratic Party. Is there a bigger takeaway there?
Listen, I think that this race tells us that Democratic voters in a battleground state like Wisconsin are open to progressive ideas, but the idea of perceived electability still matters. When you drill down into the results that we saw last night, we saw Francesca Hahn, the Democratic Socialist who was in this race. She did relatively well in some of the biggest cities in Wisconsin, Milwaukee and Madison, but when you zoom out to some of these suburban areas and more rural areas, that's where we saw the more moderate David Crowley able to really run up the score, and that's how he was able to win narrowly in this race. And so what he also did was argue that he will advance Democratic agenda items and Democratic priorities without being an easy target for Republicans.
A progressive candidate did win the Democratic nomination for Senate in Minnesota. So what do those mixed results tell you about the direction of the party now?
Democratic voters aren't moving uniformly in one direction. I think that voters are thinking about these things pragmatically. They're looking at this race by race, whether or not the candidate's message and record resonates in a certain area, if someone is right for that state. We saw Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan come out on top. She had the backing of the retiring Senator Tina Smith, but she also hammered in on the issue of immigration. That is something that is especially raw in a state like Minnesota, where we've seen ICE tactics play out really aggressively in that state. The deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy happened there, and she was able to use that issue to catapult her to victory.
Meanwhile, Darlene Graham and Ralph Norman are heading for a runoff in South Carolina's Republican Senate primary. What are you watching for there?
Yeah, the idea of a Trump endorsement not being enough to clear the way for Darlene Graham is quite interesting. She has the name and she has the support of the president, which we know is really important in Republican politics, but she does not have lots of experience in elected office, even though she's currently holding that seat. And we saw Ralph Norman able to advance to a runoff. He is someone who comes with lots of experience in elected office, and he's ultra conservative. He's a part of the leadership of the House Freedom Caucus, and so it'll be interesting to see exactly how voters decide when they have a binary choice between someone that the president has endorsed and someone who is a diehard conservative.
All right, ABC News political director Averi Harper. Averi, thank you.
Thank you.